Blog Talk Radio.
All right, everybody. Thank you for now tuning into the Biz with D on MyFirstSwingsRadio.com. And right now we have Alexzenia Davis, who is a publicist at Interscope Records. And if you guys don't know who Interscope Records is and you're listening to the music segment, you need help. But not only is she in the publicity department at Interscope, but she's also a poet, and she's here with us. How are you?
Hi, how are you? Good to be here.
We're great. Thanks so much for this interview. We appreciate it.
Of course, thank you.
Not a problem. So I was doing my research, and I know that you went to school, high school for performing arts, for vocal major, right?
LaGuardia High School, New York.
How did you how was that experience for you?
It was awesome. It was one of the most unique experiences I think I've ever had in my life. I mean, you're just surrounded by so many talented people.
Mm-hmm.
And, I mean, they pushed you so hard. You had to be great academically, but great at your talent. And, you know, I think I was a little bit shyer when I was in high school than I am now. So, you know, that was difficult. But it was really fun, really, really fun.
Right. Well, you can't be shy. You're in publicity. Can't be shy.
Oh, well, not anymore. Not anymore. But in high school and singing in front of everybody, I was like, oh, my God. But it was great. I mean, I learned so much.
So then you went to college for communications. What made you do communications versus going to, like, a performing arts college and majoring in vocal?
Well, I wasn't really interested in going to a conservatory. I think if I were going to continue singing, it would have just been in a choir maybe. But I always had a passion for writing, and at that time I was pursuing a career in journalism, entertainment journalism to be specific. So I majored in communications and had a concentration in journalism.
Right.
And it was an HBCU, and I really wanted to go to an HBCU.
Okay. And then you had did some staff writing, different interning for different writing publications, and got some producer credits, I see.
Yeah, I went to school in Charlotte, and it's really up and coming for entertainment. So there was just so much opportunity. So I tried to dig my hand into everything that I could.
Mm-hmm.
And so I worked with this online television show and got a producer credit there. And I worked with ESPN a little bit. It was cool.
Wow. That's nice. How did you like that experience?
I loved it, and I really miss Charlotte a lot. I mean, if you haven't been there, you should really go. They've built it up so much. It's like, you know, still in the South, but with a very up north, fast-paced feel, and it's cool.
All right, I definitely will have to check that out. So now, being that you have the ability of singing, I know you have some projects out. For those who don't know or haven't checked out your work, is it singing or is it all poetry?
All poetry.
Nice.
All poetry.
Yeah. Because of course, I was reading your poetry like that, and I like them all in, like, the style that you write it in. Where do you find, like, the inspiration to write your poetry?
Really just a lot of it's from things that I'm going through, mm-hmm. And even if it's not, like, if I write a poem about something specific, it may not be directly what I'm going through, but all the emotions are there.
Right.
It's weird because I'm still a private person, even though I do put a lot of my life into my poetry. So sometimes I change a couple of things just so that it's not completely related to my life. But yeah, life experiences, things that I'm really passionate about at the moment. So like themes in my poems have changed over the years. Like at one point it was just really political, really black, and like now it's more about love and about being aware and conscious. So it changes based on what I'm really passionate about at the moment.
Right, definitely. And I do some writing myself, write poems and write poetry. So I know for myself, it's about whatever mood I'm in or what inspires me at that point in time to really get that message to come across right. So,
it's most authentic that way.
Definitely. So now, what made you want to get into public relations? Because I can kind of see where, it's just kind of, going to school for communications and then, one picking up journalism and then jumping into the publicity side of it for music. What would you say made you want to get into it?
Well, the thing is, when I was really young, I always wanted to be in the music business. I always wanted to work in the music business. And, I always wrote when I was younger, and everyone would say, you're going to be a writer when you grow up. But I just kind of thought of it like, that's going to bore me. So I loved music, and I always wanted to work. Like, at one point, I just really, that's all I wanted to do, work at a record label. And then going into college and kind of, since I left New York and there weren't really major labels in Charlotte, I kind of, I fell more in love with writing, and that's where the whole entertainment journalism thing came in, because I still could be around music and still could write. And then with some of the things that I did with my internships and then, whatever, like, God just worked it out, really. I had the opportunity when I was graduating college, it was either come to L.A. and work in entertainment or go upstate New York and work at a newspaper. And I chose L.A. and through that ended up at Interscope.
Wow.
And it's cool because it's publicity, so you still get to write. And, it's cool. It's a great combination of both.
Definitely. And of course, with like the press releases and the bios that you have to do, nobody knows. It's like ghostwriting, basically.
Yeah.
That's how I like to think about it. Be like, no one knows I wrote it, but my name's on it. However,
I know. It was kind of weird at first because I was like, okay, in journalism, your name's on everything, so it was kind of weird, but it's cool, It's cool. And publicists, we're supposed to be more behind the scenes anyway with that type of stuff, so you just get used to it.
Right. So now with you getting used to, like, the publicity side of it and getting used to, like, doing, like, the press releases and just interacting with the media, like, was that, like, a little bit hard adjusting to, or would you say, like, going to school for journalism helped a lot?
Well, I'll say this. The hard adjustment was coming from entertainment journalism where you get an album and you can critique it to going into your promoting artists and you don't necessarily, like, since it's a major label, you just, like, I was nervous about the fact, like, what if I wouldn't listen to this? And I've just been lucky to get a lot of artists that I'm just like, oh, I love their work. Like, so I think that was the bigger adjustment, dealing with media. I think it's just fun, I love getting to know each writer's personality. And, like, even our relationship, getting to, like, just, build with different journalists, I just think it's fun. I think it's cool.
Yeah, definitely. And I like our relation that we have, because it's so cool and stuff like that, because, a lot of people, when you're working, doing your own application and you're talking to a publicist, sometimes it's just like, oh, that's it. That's the interview. There you go. Bye. you know exactly how it is. So, I mean, it's all business at the end of the day and how it happens.
Yeah.
Now, I mean, I wanted to, ask you about some of the, I'm not going to say what clients you work with, because I'm going to keep that on the low. Like, what I like, and I hinted anyway. When it comes to, I hate that I hinted that, but it is what it is. So now my question was for you, when it comes to, like, the media training for working with artists, I know that sometimes can be very difficult for the artists and for the publicists as well. Do you find it to be difficult for yourself at times?
For me with my poetry, or for me as a publicist?
For both.
Well, I think that the media training aspect of it, it's probably one of the most important things. I feel like I'm sure it is hard for our artists, especially the ones who are a little bit more introverted, because not every artist is outgoing. And,
Right.
you know, some of our artists are young or they just haven't necessarily grasped exactly who they want to portray themselves as. So that's why I think media training is so important, because you need to understand your brand. Because at the end of the day, like you said, everything's business and you are a brand. And, you know, I've even noticed that for, like, me with my poetry. It's like I know who I am to my mother and who I am to my friends and who I am to, you know, my little nieces and nephews, but how do I hone that in to present myself in one way to people who may only know me through my poetry? And so I think that, you know, it's a difficult process, but it's the most important thing you probably have to do if you're trying to transcend from just being an artist sitting in your home to presenting yourself in front of millions of people.
Right. That's very true. And now I had a question for one of my hosts. They wanted to know, since you are in PR with Interscope, and then you have your own career as a poet and author, how do you like get yourself out there? Are you pitching a lot for yourself, or is there someone else that's helping you along the way?
It's been a mixture. With some of the projects that I've done, like collaborations, I've had help, because it's, you know, the producer also pushing his project. Or, you know, I did a poetry film, so the filmmaker pushed it, and he pushed, like, he got us so much coverage on our project. So it's a mixture, you know. And also learning the poetry world is such a niche. It's different. It's not like if I were doing music, it would be a little bit different. There's tons of publications, but with poetry, it's like navigating that world is very different.
Right. And are there a lot of poetry outlets out there for like to support like what you do with it, or is it like kind of hard to like really find them?
There are a lot of blogs, and there are a lot of there are a bunch of literary magazines, but a lot of those are for, I want to say you have to probably be at a certain level for that to be an easy sell. And so, I mean, for me, it's like I mix my poetry with a lot of different formats, so like with video or with music. So a lot of my coverage has been because it's been so unique. Wow. But I mean, it's difficult for poets. It's really difficult. It's like if you weren't on like Def Poetry Jam or had your poem featured in a movie, you know, you just have to work really hard at it.
Right. Well, you know some people that can even help you get to that Def Poetry, so you can get like the more exposure with it. So it's like it's just a matter of time, and you're doing great with it too. I see like all the postings on you. Yeah, no problem.
Oh, and I will say this, I just want to plug Verses and Flow. It's such a good show. So the shows like that, Verses and Flow, and then when who was it, Russell Simmons, he had the Brave New Voices, like shows like that are amazing also for poets.
Definitely. So now we have a couple of different questions from some of our people that are in music that want to know something like ins and out as far as like approaching, you know, publicists in general, just about the things. I'm going to ask you a couple of these questions. This question comes from Jaleesa, and Jaleesa wanted to know when is the right time for an artist to, you know, or any entertainer like that to approach a publicist for their services?
I think you can have a publicist from the beginning, but I think that we're more influential once you have your product together.
Right.
And then, you know, label publicity is a little bit different just because we have so many policies and procedures and we have to work with each department. So, you know, if you go to an indie PR firm, they're completely focused on, you know, just the client, and they can move and navigate however they want to. But I would say having a strong grasp on your brand before you go out and just try to get features is important. So you can approach a publicist from the beginning, but you have to, we always talk about managing your expectations. So if you're very new and you maybe have a single out or, one mixtape out, really work on booking your shows and getting great at your live performance and understanding who you want to be, what your direction is, what your goal is, and let the press kind of flow naturally, if that makes sense. I think a lot of people, they come out and they want to chase press in the very beginning, and it's like you have to allow your craft to grow. You have to allow people to want to seek you out. Yes, we have to push you so that people know that you exist, but then, let it come to you.
Definitely. I have to agree with that, because there's a lot of artists that want to be so quick with it and think that, oh, yeah, I'm going to tweet this to XXL and they're going to post it on their site. It doesn't happen that quickly.
Yeah.
To be patient with it and let it take its course.
And you have to, sorry.
No, go ahead.
Yeah, and you have to understand that the journalists get hundreds and hundreds of submissions, each week, each month. So it's like they have to kind of know that you have some longevity and that you're going to be around for a while, and that, they're going to be able to get some traction because they're talking to you. It's just, you have to understand all of that.
Right. And now, what is one thing that, in fact, I'm not going to ask you that. What's the difference between a label publicist and just a regular music publicist? Because that's a big thing that people always get confused. They think it's all this, there's a lot of the same things going on, but sometimes there isn't.
We all have the same job. We all have the same task, but at the label, there's things that are easier about working on a label, and there's things that are more difficult. So the things that are easier is that you have a huge name behind you, and journalists come to you because they know, okay, yeah, you may have a new artist that, we have to get to kind of know, but then you also have these legendary artists that, maybe one day I'll get to, feature them too. So you have a name behind you, and it makes it a little bit easier. But then at the same time, you have a much larger roster. So, your job is combined with doing strict publicity for your roster, but then also managing your indie publicists and, dealing with budgets that you have to talk with other departments and figure out budgets, and it's a lot. And with indie PR, it's harder because you don't have the label name behind you. But I just feel like, and this is from me. Obviously, I've only been a label publicist from the inside looking out, or from the outside looking in. But I just feel like they can maybe navigate just a little bit easier sometimes because they don't have to wait on this department to make this move or whatnot.
Right.
But essentially, we all do the same thing. We all have the same goal for our artists. You have to do damage control sometimes. It's
definitely, because you have like a lot of clients like on your roster, like artist-wise with the label. How do you manage handling them all? Because you got a lot.
Yeah, we do. It gets tough. The thing is, all of our artists aren't necessarily active all at the same time.
Right.
So while you still have to work them and, make sure that you handle any requests coming in or set up, any relevant press that may be needed to be set up, they're not all active all at once. So, but it is a lot. Definitely is a lot.
Now, what point would you definitely say that it can be much? Would it be maybe when around like album time or when it's like red carpet and you have like 10 different artists that you have to walk down with? Like, when does it become like the most like challenging?
I'll say for me personally, I think when the artist is touring, it definitely is a lot because you have to, you know, make sure that you secure your interviews, make sure you secure reviews, argue to try to get more tickets if you don't have enough. You know, it's that's when it becomes a little bit hectic. But it's different. I think it's different for every publicist. Like, I enjoy red carpet a lot. I know some people are like, "Whew, that's the most difficult time." But I love. I know. I love the red carpet. Red carpet. I like the actual concert, like actually going backstage and setting up the interviews. I like that. But tour press in general is just very hectic.
Yeah. And I mean, that's got to be fun because you're thinking to yourself, like, right when their request comes in, like, yeah, let's definitely set this up. Or after the fact, it's like, you know, this is something that, this was my placement, basically, with this publication.
Right.
That's always a good feeling. I know it is for myself when with my own, you know, placements for myself that I do for other people and for myself. I'm like, wow. Round of applause.
Yeah, no, it's a good feeling.
Now, I did want to ask you, do you do some photography?
I don't do photography. I mean, I feel like I can take a nice picture, but I've never studied it, so I wouldn't know how to develop the film and all of that. I can bring it to Walmart or whatever.
Because one of my hosts said that you do photography. I'm like, I don't know about that.
Well, maybe they think that, because my book that I have, it features photography. But, yeah, I think that's probably where it came from. I hired this girl. She was 16 when she took the pictures. Now she's 17, I believe. And they are amazing. Like, they're amazing. The book's called New York Cartoon. But, so there's all pictures of New York and stuff that you couldn't find on Google. Like, it's very unique images of New York, but when you see them, you're like, yeah, that's the city. And so, yes, an amazing job.
I need to see one so I can put it as my wallpaper on my phone.
Yes.
Phenomenal. Yeah, I had to ask that question because they were like, check and see, because I could have sworn she's somewhere there was an interview where she said she was. I'm like, I don't know what you're talking about.
No, I wish. I can take some good pictures on my iPhone and put a filter on it.
Exactly. That's what I do. Put a filter. Goodbye. People they can't get it done, especially when it comes to the shows and stuff like that. Just take that picture, because now you know how the iPhones are set up now. They have that new camera. Oh, my goodness.
Yes. Like, we can all be professional, semi-professional photographers.
Exactly. You're like, snap, and like, it's over the interstate. It's done. So now, as far as your poetry is concerned, taking it back to main focus, what project are you working on right now? Are you working on a book?
Well, I just released my book this year, so that's New Yorkitude, and it features about, I want to say, 23 poems. So I'm really excited about that, still pushing that. And then I have a couple of projects music-wise, but I'm still doing poetry, but it's with producers. So I don't know if you've ever heard of Akello Light. He's a producer. He does more indie type music, but it's hip hop driven, but it's just like really smooth sound. I don't even know how to describe it. But he released a EP, and it's 3 tracks, and so you can find that online and on my website.
Definitely. Well, I'm looking. So now, can all the listeners get your book from the website as well?
Yeah, on alexzeniadavis.com. I have links to every place that's selling it. So I have a link to the publisher, and then it's on Amazon, it's on Barnes & Noble.
Check you out. You are really doing it. I am so proud of you because you really are
Thank you.
No
I appreciate it.
No problem at all. Well, thank you so much for this interview. Yeah, we do appreciate it. Now, my final question for you is, what is one thing about publicity that you want just anybody in entertainment that ever gets it construed? What's one thing that you want them to know about publicity?
Sorry, it broke up a little. One thing that I want who to know about?
The listeners, people that want to break out into the music industry.
Okay. About publicity in general. I think if you enter publicity, if you enter any field, on the business side of entertainment, really understand your artist. Really take the time to get to know them. It's easy to develop a formula and to, use that template and try to work every artist like that. But I think you'll be most successful when you take the time to sit down, get to know your artist, get to know who they are, what they want, and how you can be of service to them. I think they'll appreciate you more, and you'll know how to represent them to the best of your ability. And I think that's the most important thing. And to not be afraid to, obviously with the label it's a little bit different, but if you are maybe on your own or working your own firm, never be afraid to let someone know maybe that they're not ready or that they need more time, or just be honest. Honesty and getting to understand your client. I think that's the best.
Definitely. Well, that's a good piece of advice, and I would take that advice as well. That's so good. Well, Alex, thank you so much again for this interview. Tell everybody where they can find you as far as your website and social media is concerned to check out your work.
AlexzeniaDavis.com, my first and last name.com, Facebook.com/AlexzeniaDavis, and on Twitter @AlexzeniaDavis. Very simple.
All right. Thank you.